Welcome back. Welcome back. This is the athlete Travis Reed hosting the Athlete's Journey. Today, I got a special guest, person I just recently met and did his show, but a good friend of mine. He's had a prestigious career in the NFL, played over 15 years, basically a decade and a half. Man, I would say back in the day when you can hit quarterbacks. So I respect him. I respect him a ton. I want to introduce him as Gus Frerotte. Say hey, Gus.
What up, Travis? How you doing, buddy?
Good. I'm just like I said, I was a fan. I used to watch the Washington Redskins all the time. Because it was like either them or Dallas on Channel 2 back in the day.
Oh yeah, they're on right now. See if I got them on the back.
Yeah, he actually has the game on right now, which is funny, like I said. So I used to watch him a lot, way back in the day. If I had lived in Washington, I probably would have been a Washington Redskins fan. You
would have been a Bullets fan and a Skins fan.
Definitely. So that's why I'm glad you came on the show. I appreciate it, and pretty much thank you. Like once again, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's gonna be a fun night.
Yes, agreed. Well, let's get right into it. I want to say, how did your football career start?
Oh, well, if you go way back when, playing when I was young, they called it midgets back then, but it's youth football. And I didn't really like it, man. When I tried it, I was like in 6th grade, maybe 5th grade. And I was like the biggest kid. So they put me on the line and I hated it, getting your head knocked in every play. I was like, I don't want to play this sport. And then came to 8th grade, played again. And, you just kind of out there, you play any position. It doesn't really matter. Didn't really play quarterback, just played wherever, right? Defense, whatever, that year went so fast. I don't even remember it. And then funny story about that year was I broke my foot the first day of practice. And I went home and I told my dad, I said, I think I broke my foot or I hurt it really bad. He goes, son, I just bought you those cleats. You're not taking them back. I can't take them back. You're going to wear them. So just tie your shoe tighter. So basically I played a whole season with a broken foot.
Ouch.
That was crazy. That's my dad though. He was a mill guy. And then in 9th grade, I started 2-a-days, went out and tackled somebody with my head down and broke my neck in 9th grade. So 9th and 10th grade, never even played football.
Wow.
So then I came back in 11th grade and just basically was playing quarterback at that point. Just because I could throw it. I played baseball. I healed up, was playing baseball all the time. And then my senior year ended up playing defensive back and quarterback and just, got back in the game. And when you're young, you heal up no matter what happens to you. So I really never played quarterback till I was a junior in high school, and it was a wing tee and we ran the ball. We never threw it. So then went to a Joe Butler Metro Index camp after my senior year in football, got recruited by, there were a lot of colleges there, got recruited by Tulsa, Louisville, Kansas State, Temple. My first big recruiter was Michigan, but they got their quarterback, so they quit recruiting me, where I would have went to Michigan. Mm-hmm. And then just ended up Tulsa. I liked David Rader, who was my head coach, and went there and I had 5 great years at the University of Tulsa.
Nice. Well, you already just said it. I was going to ask you, what were you interested in playing the other sports besides football? But you said baseball, right? Baseball.
Yeah, I played baseball. I love baseball, man. We won state championship. We came in 1st, 2nd, and 4th in the state in my 3 years in high school baseball there, basically. And then I love basketball too. I mean, loved it, but my senior year, I wasn't really going to play because I was more of a football and baseball guy. Mm-hmm. And the first week out in basketball, I absolutely just crushed my ankle, just twisted it really bad. So basically I had one of those remember those old air casts? I had one of those.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I'm not going to get hurt again, go out, play. First game out, after I come back after like 3 or 4 weeks, I roll the other ankle and I'm like, I'm done. But, when you're competitive, it's hard not to go out and play sports, and especially in stuff like that. So I just got ready for my senior year in baseball, and then off to college.
Oh, okay. So you've had success in baseball and in basketball. I guess what would be your most memorable moment in high school, if you want to say, if you have one?
In any sport.
Either
Oh
one,
gosh.
football or baseball.
Well, obviously we won a state championship in baseball, which was so much fun. We had a really good team, really good coach. A lot of these things you hear about how coaches bring people together, but they're still tough. You know what I mean? Like, but
Mhm.
not mean.
Mhm.
He was like that, right? He got us all to play together as a team. We just had some really gritty, really good players. We had a player on our team, Denny Herringer, who was he went on and pitched in the pros. He was our ace in the hole. I mean, we probably wouldn't win anywhere without him. I was young. I was a sophomore when we won states, and so I was the right fielder. But I was young, strong, throw the ball. And then the other one was in my senior year in football. We went to the playoffs, and that was the first time our school ever went to the playoffs in football.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, think about that. That was a long round. I mean, my dad went to school there, and my dad's 40 years older than me. So that school, our high school, has been around since the early 1900s, and then just think in 1989 was the first time we ever went to the playoffs in football, which is crazy.
That is crazy. Wow. That's
Yeah.
insane. All right. So you obviously you're really good in football. You get recruited by Michigan, Tulsa, those kind of things for football. What do you remember? Like, what was the biggest difference between college when you first stepped on the practice field or the field from high school?
Well, when I was in high school, we only had 19 kids on my team, right?
Mm-hmm.
So our freshman class at Tulsa, we had 25 kids. So that's already bigger than my high school team. And for me, it was just kind of getting to know other people. I came from a small town outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Never really knew a lot of other people than my hometown. And it was just kind of everything was wonderful about it was the diversity, the different people from different backgrounds, and we're all coming together to play the same sport. And mine was, I was competing with all the other quarterbacks. There was a kid from where I grew up. There was a kid from Texas. There were, people from all over. And so for me, the greatest thing about it was just, man, there's this whole other world that I didn't really know about that all these kids come from, because we didn't have the internet. We didn't have all that stuff. And so all of a sudden I get to compete against these kids from Texas and all these other places. And I was redshirted my freshman year. And then my second year, I just wanted to play. And so I did a little punting. All right. So I did punting there. And then our quarterback, my second year, our quarterback got hurt and blew his knee. And then he came back my third year for a medical redshirt, TJ Rubley. And he had a really good year, and I was a starting punter and I was the backup quarterback. So, and then after that, I got to play my last 2 seasons in college and just ended up having a lot of fun and a good career.
Nice. You were a punter too?
Yeah. I loved it. I had one of the longest punts. So we were playing in Freedom Bowl out your way in Anaheim. And we line up to punt. We were playing San Diego State in that game. And I had an 89-yard punt. So I absolutely nailed one. And the guy went back. It was over his head. So he went back to catch it and went off his hand. And then it rolled the whole way down to like the 3-yard line, right? And we were at the complete other end of the field, so it counts. So I was like, that's pretty sweet. But also that year, we beat Texas A&M that year, and we played them in Tulsa, and I had a 1-yard punt. So I had both things happen to me that year.
A 1 yard and an 89-yard.
Yeah. So when you see that, it's a bad feeling when they go off the side of your foot.
I imagine. All right. So you start your junior year in college. Are you like on the throwing team? Are you on a team that there's a lot of running like you were in high school? Or
well, yeah, it was Coach Rader, who was our head football coach. He was all about throwing. We were in shotgun all the time, kind of like they are now in the pros. We did that back in the 90s, in the early 90s. And I had one receiver. I had a couple of really good receivers, but one went to the pros for a while. His name was Chris Penn. He was drafted by the Chiefs. But he and I mean, it was just like, it was just, we'd just go out and tear people up. Like it was so much fun. We'd put them all over the field. Our senior year, he missed 2 games and we still had 106 catches. Like we were just killing it.
Okay.
But we were Tulsa kind of gets the leftovers from like Oklahoma State, Arkansas, and a lot of schools from Texas, but we still get a lot of good players. So what happens is if you lose your starter, the guy that's coming in usually is not as good because he's like, he's just not it. And it doesn't mean you're being mean to anybody. It's just a talent level. And so we didn't have the success that we had the year before, but we did a lot of good things and we had a lot of fun.
Nice. Good. 2-year starter. Now, are you starting to get looks from the NFL from your senior year?
It was crazy. I got invited to the combine to throw all 5 days. So some quarterbacks come in, like I wasn't highly touted. Some quarterbacks come in and they can just come in for the quarterback workouts, right? Some quarterbacks, they bring in like 4 or 5 in, like I did, and they throw all 5 days to every position whenever they need a thrower. And I was like, yeah, whatever I got to do, I'm going to go. So I was there for 5 days. I'll never forget, what was his name? Quarterback from Syracuse that year in 94. He was my roommate. I saw him one time and I said, "You're not staying around? You're not throwing?" He goes, "I'm going first round. I don't need to be here." I don't think he was even drafted.
Oh,
and
wow.
So, yeah. So, I mean, that's just kind of how it was. You can't come in with an attitude or an ego. You just got to do what they ask, and you got to go out and perform every chance you get. And so that's what I really tried to do, was just be humble. And at that time, I was living back in Pittsburgh with my now wife, but we were going out back then, and she was in nursing school at Pitt, and I was actually got an internship with the Pittsburgh Pirates. So after my senior year of football, I interned with the Pirates because I didn't know what was going to happen. That was my field of study that I was doing. I interned with the Pirates. And then after the combine, I had all these coaches come in, and I didn't have a pro day. My pro day was going out to some random field in Pittsburgh, or calling the University of Pittsburgh and asking them if I could use an indoor facility or wherever I could throw. And so these coaches would come in, and I'm throwing routes to a guy who never played football in a tennis facility. So there's, and they're used to going like all these schools and but they keep coming. And so, I'm kind of one of those guys that's under the radar, get drafted in the 7th round. I have an agent at that point. He's telling me you're going to get drafted. Teams keep calling, but it never happens. And finally around the 2nd day in 7th round, it happens. I was only the 5th quarterback taken in the 7th round. So there weren't many quarterbacks taken that year. But you can't look back, you can't hold it against anybody, and you just go out and I was drafted by the Skins, and you go out and you bust your tail and you work hard.
Now I have to ask you a question, 2 questions actually. On draft day, how was that process of like that day? I know you're just sitting around watching, people drafting. And 2, how did you feel when you heard that, you heard your name get drafted by Washington?
Well, that day was, 2 days really, right? The first day we're at my folks' house where I grew up, and they have their family. My dad was one of 15 kids, so he had a big family. And my mom and everybody we knew were there. My wife now, Ann, she was there. Her dad was my high school football coach, so all their family was there. So it was a big deal, and the first day goes by, I don't get drafted. The second day, everybody comes back, and you get the call. And it's the Redskins, it's Charlie Casserly. "Hey Gus, we're going to take you with the next pick. We're so excited," all that stuff. "We're so excited to have you. Can't wait, coach." But you don't even know what to say, like, because nobody tells you what to say in that point. You just say, yeah, okay, coach. And then you got to figure it out. And then your family's so happy But then you realize that they took a quarterback in the first round. So
Mhm.
what's that mean for me, you know? And it's just like my agent's like, dude, you just got to go in and work hard and show them what you can do, show them your talent. And
Mhm.
I was able to do that. But that feeling of being drafted, at least, is incredible. To come from a small school like Tulsa, to come from a town of 5,000 people with only 19 kids on my football team in high school, it's a pretty amazing feeling.
No, definitely, definitely. Would you say that would be the biggest biggest triumph you had in college was probably getting drafted to go to the NFL, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that just um, going and playing college football, I was lucky, because
Mhm.
there's not many guys that get to do that. And then being drafted was, I loved it because, you don't get on my team that I played for. There was only one other guy drafted. And a year before me, there were 2 years before that were three other guys drafted. So it doesn't happen that often at Tulsa. And
No.
so, that was a big deal. And then coming from my hometown, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie All the Right Moves.
Yes, yes.
Um, so it's not exactly like that, but our town was a mill town. There were huge factories there. And then, that my dad's family was one of the big families that worked in the factory, all of his,
Okay.
so
Okay.
it's kind of like that. There's a lot of pride. There's a lot of people pulling for you.
Mhm.
Um, and you just figure you got to go out and make the most of it and do everything you can to make the team.
All right. What was the biggest lesson you learned in college?
Um, you know, Going back and thinking about it, my coach David Rader was just he prepared me way more than I even thought, right? Because
Mhm.
he played college football at Tulsa. He played it for the Giants for a few years, but then never really played, but just was on the team
Mhm.
and had a great understanding of defenses, of like forward thinking offense, where we
Mhm.
spread the ball out, we move guys around. We did a lot of that before he brought a lot of that from the NFL. And so I was just appreciative of everything that he taught me. And I think that was the biggest advantage of why I did so well in the pros was like I was prepared, not all the way. Like we didn't have a lot of like I still needed to lift and get stronger and do a lot of those things. But as far as mental wise, I think I was prepared enough to do well to make a team if I got there in the NFL.
Okay. Okay. So you're drafted. You're in camp. You're a seventh round pick. So how is it that you know? How do you know? What do they tell you how to stick? I guess that would be the question. How to stick on the team?
Well, you don't, you're young, you're a rookie, you don't, so you got to try to listen, keep your mouth shut and try to work hard, right? You're not a first round pick. Those guys, they have different opportunities, but they earned it, right? They earned it. They were great in college, so that gives them an opportunity to be a first round pick. But for me, our first round pick didn't show up, and he's Schuler. So
Oh.
all of a sudden, he doesn't show up, and he's a quarterback in my position. So I basically got all his reps and worked hard every day, did whatever I could.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then
Hmm.
I'll tell you a story that kind of made me feel like I made it, but I don't, it didn't probably have anything to do with it. So I've always befriended the linemen when I played football
Hmm. Hmm.
and in college, whatever. Linemen were always my friend, probably because they were faster than me. And I looked up to them because they were so fast. Uh, no, but in Washington, the Hogs were the guys, right? They
Hmm.
were the O line, right? The Hogs. When you get a nickname for your O line, yeah, it means they're pretty darn good in the
Hmm.
NFL. And
Hmm.
so I befriended kind of the Hogs and got to know a bunch of them. Loved all those guys. They were incredible. They won Super Bowls a year before. So there's all these guys, and they had this place in where at training camp where they this little bar where we would go, they would take and they go, hey, you want to come with us? And I'm like, sure. I don't have any money, I don't have anything. Like, I'm gonna go. Right. And so we're drinking. So you get done with practice, you got a little time before dinner, and then you have night meetings. So the meeting starts at like 6 and practice
Hmm.
get done at like 3 and we go out. So I'm there and I'm like looking at my watch and I'm like, oh, it's like 5:30. We got to go. And they're like, sit down. We'll be fine. right? And then so it's like 5:45, and they all get up and they go, all right, let's go. And they go, hey, Rook, pay the bill. And I'm like, I don't have any money. So I go up to the guy at the bar and I'm like, hey, dude, I don't have any money. You know, I'm a rookie. He gets it. He's like, just when you get some, just come back, pay me. We'll take care. So I was able to do that. But so I'm late, right? I'm going to the meeting. I'm like, shit, I'm just going to be terrible. I'm going to get cut. So I walk into the meeting. Norv Turner's the head coach, and he goes, hey, where you been? You're late. You're like 2 minutes late. And he goes, and I'm just breathing hard. And I'm sweating. And the linemen stand up and they go, hey, coach, he was with us. And that's all it took. And Norv just said, oh, okay. And I sat down and nobody said another word. Like the hazing didn't take place with me. Like the lineman had my back. Right.
Right.
And because, you know, you don't say anything to the coach. Like I was with the lineman, right? You just come in and say, I'm sorry, coach, you know, and then they stood up for me and vouched for me. And then, so, between that and then getting all the reps in training camp, I was just able to prove myself that, look, I probably shouldn't have been a 7th rounder. And I'm not really trying to have an ego or anything, but I felt like I could have played at anywhere. I could have played with any of those guys that were drafted before me. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I was able to go out and take all those reps because Heath Schuler didn't show up. And he and I had a great show. It's the first time we ever talked about the whole situation because it was kind of like oil and water between us, right? We were there together, but we didn't really mix. And there was a lot of tumultuous situations between us, a lot of kind of anxiety. And you know, he comes back from like, didn't go to any training camp. He comes back and then he gets to start, you know what I mean? It's just like this whole thing, but everybody is kind of on my side because I put in the work and all this, but he's a 1st rounder. He deserves it. So so getting to stick there, everybody's story is different, man. You just don't know how it's going to be. And the only thing you can do is never say no, do as much as you can and go out and work your tail off and study. Like they want to see that you're mentally ready, that you're physically ready, and then that you're emotionally ready. You have to have all 3 talent levels to be good in the NFL.
Man, I understand that. I mean, like I said, I've never played. I played football like all the way up to about high school, and then I got hit in the leg once, and I was like, "Oh, all right, let me focus on basketball." So I always wanted to know, like, how is it, like the mental preparation along with the physical in NFL? You know.
Well, just, yeah, like you have to be, I mean, there's no doubt you have to be tough. You have to be willing to be in a car wreck and get back out and go do it again. You know what I mean? That's what it's like. You watch the game is going on behind me. People say it's soft. It's not the old ways. Yeah, it isn't. They've changed the rules. But still, you know, you got somebody running full speed at you and trying to take your head off. It's still going to hurt. We see injuries all the time. It's a violent game.
Yeah.
But you have to be able to differentiate between injury, pain, and, you know, can I get up? Can I do it? Or am I going to hurt my team? And for me, it was just learning that from my dad. Like I told you, that 8th grade story, that was my whole career. Like I broke my neck, came back, broke my foot, you know, I never missed. And he just, there's all kind of things that happened to me. You know, I remember I was in science class in high school and I burnt the back of my hand where you put your glove on for baseball. And he said, just put this stuff on it. You'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Like it hurt like hell when you put your glove on, but you know, your dad made you tough because he made you do all these things. And sometimes I think that there's an element of that when we watch football is missing a little bit with some people, but it's always been like that.
No, definitely. I can understand that. I think that, you know, I felt like back in your older days, like football, it was like a gladiator sport. Not saying it's not now, but it just felt a little bit rougher and tougher.
Well, yeah, I mean, you go back and watch some of the films of how quarterbacks used to get hit, thrown around, one bar face mask and all that stuff. And they were tough. I mean, those dudes were tough. They'd go have a beer and a smoke at halftime. And they were just different, right?
Yeah.
Today's different, right? You got to get rid of the ball. I mean, you're so much more knowledgeable. You can watch so much more film. There's really shouldn't be any surprises for you. And the way that guys take care of themselves now is completely different than it was back in the day where, you know, guys didn't really care or watch what they ate. You know, they knew they were going to go work out and that's just how it was. And now it's completely different, where they know that what you eat is going to affect how you recover the next day, how you feel going through a season, all that kind of stuff.
All right. So how many years did you spend in Washington?
I was in Washington for 5 years, and we lived there for 6, my wife and I. But I love DC. It's a great town. I love being there. Things didn't work out for me. Coach and I butted heads a little bit, and then you kind of move on. And trying to figure out where to go next is tough, because you build a life and a family here in 5 years at this place, and you thought you were going to be there, and then all of a sudden the team goes, yeah, you got 2 years on your contract, but we're going to cut you. And you don't get paid those 2 years, you just get cut. And then you're just like, all right, where are we going to go next? And your agent tries to find a team.
Man, that is like the insaneness of a football, like NFL contract, where like you might have 2, even 3 years, and they just release you. I never understood that. Like I'm just like, I always felt like you should always get your money no matter what they do with you. But I said,
it's crazy. It's a one-sided contract, right? You sign this contract, you put your name on it, 4 years, $25 million. And they cut you after 2. They gave you a $5 million signing bonus, but your first 2 years you made $800,000 because everything was backloaded. They're like, all right, we'll just get somebody else. We'll bring somebody else in, and they don't pay you any. I've lost more money being, cut or being leaving a team than I've made in the NFL.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I've lost a lot of money.
Dang, I never knew that. I never knew that. Man, that's crazy.
So when I played with the Dolphins in 05, I signed a contract in 05, 2-year deal. It said, okay, I'm going to play for base salary, and everything I do is incentive based. So everything, starts, completions, touchdowns, everything is incentive based. I make this, I throw this many touchdowns, do this many plays, all this stuff. My money goes up, which that's kind of how I like it, because I got to prove myself, right? That I got to go out and prove. And if I make all my incentives, then my next year's contract goes way up, right? From the base salary that I signed for. So I make all my incentives, make this money. Next year, I'm so excited to be back with the team again. Off season, coach calls me and he says, hey, we got to cut you. And I'm like, for what? He goes, well, you're too old. And I'm like, okay, I'm 36, but we just had a great season. We should have been to playoffs. We were 9-6, and we have a great team. Just draft a young kid. I said, draft a young kid. Let me help him, and he'll be the starter for you for the next 10 years. Like, I don't care. Just, give me my contract. Let me finish it out. And he goes, well, if I pay you, then I have to cut these other guys. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's not my problem. Right? That's your money guy that has to figure that out. That's not me. Right. And then he goes, well, why don't I just bring you back for the contract we had last year? And I go, no, I earned all this money. I earned this. I put my blood, sweat, and tears out in this football field, and I earned this to be the starter of this team. And he said, well, I don't see it that way. So gone. Second year, lost all that money, and just how it is, man. That's the NFL for you.
That's crazy. Man, that's a heck of a story. So but let's go back. You do your 5 years in Washington. They cut you the last 2 years. Where do you go next?
So I go to Detroit next, and absolutely love Detroit. We just had a blast. We had a great team, great locker room, had a lot of fun, made the playoffs. Went back to Washington to play them in the first playoff game and lost to them. We didn't play our best game that day, and then stay there 1 year. And I played a lot that year, and it was between myself and Charlie Batch. Jim Zorn was our quarterback coach, and Zorny called me in. He said, hey, we're going to sign Charlie to a huge contract, even though you played 10 games for us and did really well. We're going to sign Charlie. We think he should be our starter, and we're going to let you go. And that was it. And so looking for another team, end up going to after that, go out to Denver, and at Denver for 2 years. Shanahan, same thing. Hey, you can come back at a base contract or whatever. And I went in and I said, hey, look, Cincinnati wants me to come be the starter there. I don't really want to go there. I'd rather stay here. And Coach Shannon basically said, you got to do what you got to do. And I said, oh, okay, that you don't really want me. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with somebody who wants me. So I got to Cincinnati. Not a great year. Probably one of the worst years I've ever had in the pros.
Okay.
It was the whole organization was dysfunctional at that time. There were a lot of things going on. I had a wonderful coach in Dick LeBeau, was just an incredible human, but just wasn't, he wasn't allowed to control anything. And it just had a rough year. And then after that, go to Minnesota, play there 2 years. We had an incredible team with Moss and Culpepper and so many wonderful players. We should have won 2 Super Bowls those 2 years. That's how good we were.
No.
But we didn't. It's the NFL. There's always parity.
Yeah.
And after that, my offense coordinator, Scott Linehan, leaves, goes to Miami. That's the year I go to Miami. Played there 1 year. Scott leaves to be the head coach in St. Louis, so I go with him. And then, so I'm in St. Louis 2 years, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. Like I'm 37. Like I've played a long time. Let's go figure out where we want to live and raise our kids. And I get a call from the Vikings. They have a new head coach at that time, Brad Childress. Brad calls me up and he says, hey, I want you to come back up this kid we got, and I think you can really help him. And I looked at my wife. She said, yeah, why not? Let's go do it. So went to Minnesota and played my last year in 2008 in Minnesota.
Okay. Wow. That's a long and discussion, like a long and crazy career, but also like a lot of traveling, a lot of just.
Oh yeah, man, it was crazy. Well, it's not as much as you've done. I mean, I didn't have to learn a new language. I didn't have to learn how to say chicken in like 7 different languages, right? I had to deal with some crazy accents like in Minnesota, different places, but that's about it.
Well, no, I would say the difference between me and you is that you actually had your family. Was your family going with you from place to place to place to place?
Oh yeah, that was always important to me. That's probably why we don't have as much money as we should, because we were always moving and renting homes and moving our kids and putting them in schools and doing all that stuff. I mean, my wife and I, our priority was always our kids, trying to give them the best of education and anything we could.
No, I understand that. I mean, like I said, like I think it was a good thing, because like, yeah, you could have been like the single married guy in these cities, but bringing a family is always like, a good thing to me.
Yeah. But you are kind of single for a little bit, like, because when you go to a new team, your family is left behind you, right? They're left my wife was left with 3 kids, kind of getting the house ready to move or dealing with all that stuff. And you're at the new place because you have to fit in. You have to go to a new team. You have to understand what it takes to be the leader of that team because you're a quarterback. And so you have to go in and you have to figure out their culture. You have to meet all the players. You have to understand them because they're the guys that you got to trust. And then you guys got to build the same belief. And every coach is different. They all have a different belief system, a different offensive. You got to go there and do that. You got to work hard to do that in the off season while your family is back home and your wife's trying to handle the 3 kids. So she was always like, I probably would rather be out, getting hit by those guys and trying to deal with our kids. So, and then you just do it all, you try to go everywhere together. It's funny. My kids always are like, Dad, why don't you play football till you're like 45? So we could have went in the locker room and remembered everything. And I'm like, yeah, that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah. It's very few Tom Brady's who can play till they're 45 or whatever.
Yeah. That's insane. Right.
Yeah, no. I don't, that's why I say he's going to break every record, every single longevity record, because he's 44 and still playing.
I think he's pretty much, I don't know what records are left for him to break.
Yeah, I don't think any. I don't think any records.
He just broke like Drew Brees's like
completion record.
Yeah, like he just keeps knocking them down.
No, that's what I said. He's gonna be like, I'm gonna have all the rings and all the records. It's like it's insane.
Well, it's just insane that he's played that long, and I mean he did have a bad knee injury 1 year, but to come back and really not have those aches and pains, I mean that's why guys hang it up. They get aches and pains, their body breaks down, they can't play like they did anymore. And you watch him, he goes out and still wings the ball around and throws it like he did for his whole career, which is pretty amazing.
Definitely, definitely. Now, I guess based on your experience, what would be the best advice if you had for, let's just say, a young you coming in out of college to the NFL?
Like I was saying before, you got to take a look at yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to the NFL, you probably have the talent level, right? You're used to working on that. You're used to lifting, running, working on your skills. Like you'd work on your shot, every different shot, all those kind of things. And then there's the mental aspect of the game, studying the playbook, and understanding the defense, studying the defenses, right? How good are you in tough situations? Those mental things, you can't think about them. They have to be second nature. So I would look at a young kid and say, hey, as much as you can learn going into your first training camp, as far as reading a defense, understanding what the coach wants, bust your ass, go do all that. And the third thing is the emotional side, right? Getting to know the players, getting to know your teammates, understanding how they feel. Like, do you need to pick them up? Because if you're a quarterback, you're one of the guys that everybody looks up to, right? And so you have to get to know. I would go and get to know the defensive players, the offensive players. It didn't matter. And you go to try to talk to everybody to get to know that emotional side, so that when things go well, you can be there to support them, and when things go bad, you can be there to support them, because it's inevitable. It's a game. The ball isn't round. It doesn't bounce right. And there's going to be things that happen in football. So those three things together are what you need to do if you're a young player to make it in the NFL.
No, that's great. That's like I said, great advice. What's the best thing that happened, in your NFL career?
Well, just being able to play 15 years was unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
I never was lucky enough to make it to a Super Bowl. You think about that, like, Tom Brady was sucking all those up, so never got to play in those. But they're just great moments that I've had, big plays, incredible teammates, wonderful times in a locker room, at training camp, getting to know guys.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about it is that there'd be guys that I probably haven't talked to in 20 years from Washington.
Mm-hmm.
But if I saw them on the streets, we could sit down and catch up like it's old times. Mm-hmm. And that's probably one of the hardest things that we have to deal with, is like, now that I'm back in Pittsburgh and I live in a town, and yeah, you get to know some people, but there's nobody here that did what I did.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some Steelers that live around here, but not a lot of other guys. And it's, when you're trying to relate to people, sometimes that is really difficult in that sense, because only other guys that played in the NFL, no offense to anybody who didn't, but really understand what you went through in all those hot days in training camp, right? And you getting your tail kicked and going through meetings, thinking you're going to get cut, and everything else that happens. Mm-hmm. So there were so many good and bad things that, I don't regret anything I did. I don't wish I did anything different. It was all done for a reason, all for a purpose.
Yeah, no, definitely. And what would be your biggest triumph in the NFL? What was your biggest moment, if you want to say, out of your 15 year
Well, my biggest moment was, one of my most fun moments was in my last year of my career. We had the ball. It was just a great game. We're playing with the Vikings. We're playing the Bears, big rivalry. Mm-hmm. What you just saw last night, right? They played last night. Mm-hmm. And there's always, it's always gritty. It's tough, right? The teams hate each other, and that's just built into it, like, after years and years. So we're in the dome. We're playing the Bears. They're driving. Our defense has a huge goal line stand, fourth and goal. They stop them. We get the ball. It's literally on the half-yard line. And Darrell Bevel, who's now the interim head coach of the Jaguars, is our offensive coordinator. And he calls 999 F-seam. And I'm like, whoa, what do you mean? He goes, yeah, we're not going to run it. Like, we have Adrian Peterson. Like, let's just run it out and get some breathing room. He goes, no, we're going to throw it. All right. So it's just basically 2x2. Mm-hmm. All receivers are running a go route. Tight ends are down the seam. Well, tight end is slot down the seam. Two guys outside. And I said, all right, fellas, here we go. Give me some time. Let's complete something down the field. And I said, hey, if it's not open, Adrian, just get open and I'll check it down to you. And sure enough, we go back. They're playing cover 3. Peanut Tillman's the corner on my left. And when they're in cover 3, a lot of times those cornerbacks are taught to cheat. So they play the seam and the outside guy. They're right in the middle. And I was just staring down Vasante Shanko. He was our tight end. And I'm just staring him down. And I just let it rip down the sideline to Bernard Berrien. And it's like everything that you were ever taught in 15 years all fell into place in one throw. Like, throw it 3 yards from the sidelines, throw it 45 yards downfield, and it's the perfect, ball. And Bernard just ran right underneath it, went for 99, and the place erupted. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful play. But also with all the emotions and the turmoil of both teams playing each other, and how the Vikings fans are there. Yeah, it was a great play.
Okay. Now that's the way you describe it. I'm like getting excited. I'm like, yeah.
Oh yeah. And it was great because at play, there was a photographer in the end zone of that play. And he had one of those, like a fisheye lens, it looked like, but it was able to take the whole play in the stadium in the back, and you could see everything. And then he took it right when the ball was like launched. So you could see me going like this, and the ball's up in the air and everything happening. So I took that shot and I got like 15 or 16 of those, and I framed them real big. And I got all of the people that were on the field with me to sign them. All the linemen, and I gave one to everybody for Christmas. I gave a head coach one to my quarterback coach, and I gave everybody one of those. And it was just because it was such a memorable play. It was so cool.
No, yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's a heck of a game, a heck of a touchdown too. Now, so to go fast forward to when you retire. Do you know exactly what it is that you want to do, or are you just kind of trying to figure things out?
No, because my life was family and football. And I look back now, and if I did, like you asked me a question, advice would I give a kid, like going back? I would say go back. Everybody you get to meet, write their name and number down, because never know who one of those connections can help you with after your football's over. And then also continue your education.
Right.
Like do something, go intern somewhere in the off season, even if it's for a month. Or go back to school, study something, whatever it is. Or if you love to, like, for me, I was always an outdoors guy. I thought I was gonna, be an outdoorsman, because that's where I grew up in the country. Just go take that time and go do that stuff. Because when you're done after 15 years, you're like, all I knew was football. And not that I'm, I graduated college, and not that you're a dumb person, but I didn't take advantage of enough opportunities that were presented to me. Plus, I was moving all over the country. It's not like I was in the same town all the time.
No.
So when you retire and you're sitting there, the one great thing for me was I had a family that I loved, and I knew, right? A lot of guys are so focused on everything else, their football, and they're going out, when you're young, everybody wants to do those things. And then you don't realize that you're sitting at home one day and you don't know your family. And that's why divorce rate in the NFL is like 80%, right? Because these guys come in and they're like, what do I do? And so for me, family was always important. So when I transitioned, I didn't know what I wanted to do for a job. And I ended up coaching, because that's like the easiest thing, right? To go and coach the sport that you played for 25 years straight. And then when we finally moved back to Pittsburgh, I coached a little bit because my sons were playing, but I was kind of done. And I just said, I gotta do something else. And that's when I started to, I had a guy I met, we became really good, close friends, and he started a company, and I would just go work with him and try to learn as much business as I could. And that transition's tough for everyone.
No, definitely. I remember when I retired, I was like, okay, my son's 3. I got to figure out, I don't necessarily want to coach. So, okay, I'm going to go into sales, because it's dealing with people,
Right.
And I was like, I work for Enterprise. We'll pick you up,
Yeah, we'll pick you up.
Yeah, wear a suit and tie every day. Like, I was that guy, 6'8" guy picking you up in a Honda Civic, you know.
Yeah, right,
So,
right.
like,
In your
driving,
green
like,
suit.
yeah, I remember green suit. So yeah, I was that guy for a couple of years. I was like, this ain't for me. So I had to kind
Yeah,
of
I mean, I coached high school ball. I was a head coach for 3 years. Enjoyed that. I tried to go back into the NFL at like 5 years after I retired, but it was too late by then. Like you kind of miss your prime. Like they want you to come coach right when you're done, right? And
okay. Okay.
because once you're out, you're kind of out. Like even though you know a lot of people, you lost connection. You lost that connection
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
get back in. And so there's so many guys I know that are trying to find their way. Now there are guys that just, when you're at the top of the world, a lot of football, the stars, they obviously have it a lot easier than a lot of other guys.
No, I definitely agree. It's easy if you're a Shannon Sharp or Ray Lewis or those kind of guys to kind of like, I'm gonna go into broadcasting or whatever the case is. Tony Romo,
right? And you see a lot of those guys are Hall of Famers,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
That go in there. They get opportunities. They get, hey, you're this Hall of Famer. We're going to give you every chance to go and be great. But then you see some other guys who weren't, that have pushed, have been good, like Romo.
Yeah,
he was a good player, but he's not going to be. I don't know if he'll be a Hall of Famer or not. But he's an incredible what he does right now.
Gosh,
he's one of the best out there. Everybody loves listening to him because he explains the game well to the people.
No, definitely. I watched the games, a lot of his games, just like to hear him talk, just to kind of learn, like what he's talking about or what the NFL is about. But definitely. But no, it's I always felt like the transition for any athlete in any sport is just like super hard. And it's always like a lesson to learn, like to be learned, to figure out, okay, finally I have something that I like.
Yeah, I think that's like when I was on your show, we were talking about the alumni situation, right? When you're an alumni, who do you go to? Where do you go when you're done? And our alumni has been getting better and better. NFL alumni, our Players Association, they're doing more and more things to help guys transition. They'll hold conferences that you can fly to and go meet companies and all this. And sometimes that's good, sometimes it's bad. A lot of guys don't want to do that. They'll come and they'll do something for you. They'll sign autographs, they'll play in a golf tournament, they'll do charity events, but they also want to get paid to do that. And so, but they necessarily don't want to go work 8 hours a day. You know what I mean? Like so there's things that are good and bad about the alumni. And I think they're all getting better. Like guys are more apt to tell them like, hey, this is what we want. Right. And so the alumni are trying to do that.
All right. Well, my last question that we always ask, every guest on the show, or I always ask, is at some point in your career, everybody's career, they get into maybe some lower points, and I always ask this because I want people to kind of know if they're at low points in their career or after their career is over, how do they get out of it? What did you do to get out of maybe your low point, of your career or out of your career?
Yeah. So there was a point in my career and when I was in Washington where I had a major kind of incident happened to me where I scored a touchdown. I headbutted a wall. I mean, everybody watches it. It's everywhere, right? And you go from being the guy on the Washington Post and the talk of the town to the talk of the nation because you did something that they're going to play on ESPN for every month for the rest of your life, right? And so a lot of people see that. And so there's two ways to handle it. I went through it. It was tough going in to see my teammates after that. And you kind of say, hey, it was an accident, it happened, right? You just kind of move on. Coaches couldn't move on from it. That was one of the big reasons I was let go from the Skins. But I didn't let it affect me. I played another 10 years after that. And what you got to do is like, you're going to have adversity in your life. You're going to have problems in your life. And the only way to get out of them is to face them. And I will say the one thing that helped me was I had a great support in my wife, Ann, my kids and my family. Just, it didn't define me, was that right? My kids still see it. Hey, Dad, it's on ESPN again. And so you laugh about it and move on. And people really, sometimes they don't want to ask me about it, but, and And there's a difference when you ask me a good question and you ask me a mean question, right? And sometimes people want to get mean, and because they want to bring something out of you. And usually if they get mean, I don't answer too much, right? I keep it short. But that was probably one of the hardest points in my life, because that's on the, that was in front of, 25 million people watching TV that night. And everybody got to see it. And for years, I had to deal with that question. And why did you do that? What happened? How come you did that? What were you thinking? All those kind of things. And then you just deal with it and move on. I think I just wanted to, it definitely makes you humble, right? That things can happen to you at any time and change your life. And I didn't want it to define me. And so I just kind of push it off and laugh about it. And really, my wife, Ann, she's so tough and strong that she just willed me to be better than that.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand that. It's always good to have that great support system, to get you through like times that maybe you can't get through times yourself,
Well, yeah. And I had my wife. Some people have a coach. Some people have a mother or father. Some people have a brother. Everybody has a different support system. And the reason it's there is for you to lean on them when you need them.
Definitely agree with you 100%, Gus. Gosh, I'm so grateful and so thankful for you to come on the show. Like I said, I appreciate you so much. Like I said, I used to watch you back in the day when I was a kid. So I definitely just want to say thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you don't got this stuff up here like I got.
Yeah. No, see, I cut my hair. So yeah. You don't see it. You don't see it.
I don't look good with short hair. So
this is
actually my dad's hair. This is exactly what his looked like when he that's how he combed it and everything. And my kids are like, Dad, why do you do that? I said, I have no idea. I watched my dad do that for 17 years straight, and that's probably why.
I got you. I understand that. Well, let people know, like I said, what you're doing. Your show, like I said, when I came on was super good. I listened to like a couple of episodes of your show. It was really, really good. So I want to make sure you tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, everybody can check me out at Huddle Up with Gus. You can go to huddleupwithgus.com. You can go on any social media at Huddle Up with Gus. They can follow me at Gus Frerotte. And, you can check us out on sounder.fm. That's who hosts our podcast. And you can listen to our podcast, Huddle Up with Gus, wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. We're on every channel out there. And it's just a show that's incredible. I love to talk to people. It keeps me in the game. And I talk to not only football players, but like you, basketball players, people from every walk of life, because sports played a big part in most of our lives.
Agreed.
And people don't know that until you start talking to them about when they were a kid and what they learned from sports. And it's a big deal. And it's a lot of fun to talk about and share everyone's story.
No, definitely. I definitely agree. It's always, sports is weird because it's like it transitions you from a boy to a young man to a man, figuring out how life is,
Yeah, if you took that first hit in your leg and you'd have been like, oh, I like this, you would have been a football player.
Yeah,
you'd have been a tight end.
Definitely agree with you on that. It's funny. I have a family member, my cousin. He played football, but he played football, up to high school. And he was like, man, I should have kept playing. We both should have kept playing. I was like, no, you could have kept playing. You could have been playing. No, I was not going to continue after that hit. Yeah. I was not about that.
Hey, some people are meant to do it. Other ones aren't. That's
no, definitely. Well, you'll be seeing, Gus interview coming up pretty soon on the Athlete's Journey. You can definitely, people who've been listening, thank you. I appreciate it. Keep subscribing, keep listening. You can find me at Travis W. Reed on Instagram.com, and also Travis W. Reed on Facebook. Like I said, I post all my shows, all my social media. Like I'll be posting this interview with Gus on my social media platforms, but it'll be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. Thank you, Gus, once again. Like I said, I appreciate it. And we hopefully we can get you on again. I want to get you on for like a football segment for the playoffs or something.
Oh yeah, we'll just put the game on the background and we'll talk about it.
Yeah. Because like I said, this year is going to be so interesting to see. There's no, I want to say Kansas City starting around into that, I guess, the team of the AFC. But I don't know. NFC is so wide open. It could be Green Bay. It could be, Tampa Bay. It could be the Rams.
I don't know if Tampa Bay doesn't get their guys back, it's going to be rough.
Well, yeah. What's name's out for the season? Godwin. So
Godwin's out.
But AB is
They got
AB is back.
AB's back.
Yeah.
Who's the other receiver? Evans. He's got a little injury. They got to get Fournette back. So they got some things to square up, and at this point of the season, you want to be peaking, right? You want to be getting to your best. And last year, Tampa Bay was doing that. This year, they kind of had some injuries at the wrong time.
No.
Green Bay, I don't know. I think they're the favorite to win the NFC.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I would say the only team I think that can actually beat them in Green Bay, it would be Tampa. I just think, Brady would probably be the only one that can do it. I don't know if any of the other teams can go into the frozen tundra and beat them. This is just my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. At first, to begin the season, I thought, oh man, Arizona's a different team. But then they've been last few weeks, they've been showing their true colors.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of talent, a lot of sizzle. I think, Murray's great. But, when the real football starts coming, it gets a little bit colder, it start to hurt a little bit more. He gets banged up. He always getting little nicks, not in season ending, but always banged up a lot,
Yeah, my favorite guy to watch is the guy in your neck of the woods is Justin Herbert.
Oh, yeah, love Justin. He's big, strong, sturdy guy. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't have to meet Kansas City in the AFC Championship because they have that.
They should have beat him last game. They
should have beat him. To me, I'm like, you're playing Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill one-on-one? What are you doing?
Well, their coach went, instead of kicking field goals, he tried to go for it and score points. And I'm like, you never not – like, especially early in the game, I think you kick field goals and get the points.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, like this whole analytics thing is okay, but
plus
whatever.
He cost me a bet on FanDuel because he didn't kick those field goals.
No, I got you on that. Well, like I said, Gus, thank you for the time. I appreciate it. Like I said, right, got to have you on again soon.
Happy holidays, my friend.
Same. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
All right, we'll see you next year. Which is right around the corner.
Agreed.
All right, buddy. Have a great night.
You too.
See you.
Bye-bye.